Okay, friends, it is time for the main event. We're making turkey today. Not just any turkey. We are going to spatchcock your turkey so it cooks in about an hour and a half. We are going to baste your turkey in maple butter. We are going to make a sick and twisted sourdough chestnut stuffing to serve on the side. You came to the right place. So make your sides and then get ready to make your main. The first thing we're going to do is melt the maple butter so that it has a chance to cool before we start basting our bird. So for that, we're going to want a half a cup of maple syrup and 1 stick of butter. There's a couple secrets to really juicy turkey, but really juicy turkey is only half the battle. You need really juicy turkey plus really crisp golden brown skin. And I'm going to tell you all the tips today to make sure that you nail both. 1 stick of unsalted butter, and it doesn't matter if you're starting with cold butter because you're going to melt it all down anyway. So I'm putting this over a medium heat, and then I want half a cup of maple syrup. So the butter gives us the golden brown color change on the surface of the turkey. The milk solids really help with that gorgeous caramelization. The maple syrup is going to help give us almost like a sticky, sweet exterior. Come and see. Right now we're just melting the butter and the maple syrup. You don't want to do this too fast. We're not looking to evaporate the butter. We just want it to softly melt together with the maple syrup. So set that over, medium, low, and just let it do its thing. Every once in a while, you can pop back in here and give it a quick stir. But really, that's just for fun. So now we can get to the turkey. Let's talk about spatchcocking. Spatchcocking is when you remove the backbone of a chicken, any kind of fowl, turkey, and then splay it flat, press down to break the breastplate, and you get this flat laying bird that cooks much faster, which is benefit number 1. Benefit number 2 is that because it's cooking faster and more evenly spread across sort of an even thickness, it's cooking more evenly. So you get a much juicier breast, perfectly cooked thighs, maximize the surface area for potential golden brown skin, crispy skin. And honestly, other than like a slight change in the presentation of that big turkey that like everyone sees on the Thanksgiving table in their minds, I think this is a major upgrade because yes, that big turkey looks gorgeous. I totally understand. But when it comes to really juicy, delicious bite of turkey, spatchcock wins all the time. Come on over. So let's clear our board because we're about to make a little bit of a mess. Spatchcocking is not pretty and it's not clean. So you can have your butcher do it for you. Amazing, especially now that turkeys are readily available in your supermarkets. You can get a fresh turkey, you can have your butcher spatchcock it for you, and then you come home and start where we're gonna start once we get the turkey in the oven. If you, like me, have a complete turkey, you're gonna spatchcock it yourself, and I will show you how. Butter is melted, maple syrup is nice and warm. We are going to set this at the back of our stove, or you can pour it into a bowl and let it sit in your fridge just to come down to room temperature again because we don't want it hot when it goes over the turkey. So the first thing you want to do is get yourself a nice sturdy surface. I have my cutting board here. You guys know this trick. Just get a damp paper towel or cloth and stick it under your board and it will not move around on you. Then you are going to get your sturdiest pair of kitchen shears or a very sharp knife. I'm going to attempt with my kitchen shears, but I'm not totally confident in them. Here is my 14-pound turkey that I thawed for several days in the fridge. Yesterday, I salted this bad boy all over with kosher salt and let it hang out in my fridge overnight. What that salting action does, that dry brine, is actually, first of all, flavors the turkey all over. Yes, it's gonna bring plenty of salty punch to the skin and to the actual flesh itself, but it also helps to dry out the skin, which is the best way to make sure you're gonna get really golden brown, crisp deliciousness everywhere. So do that the night before. Then I took this out of the fridge half an hour ago, so it's at room temperature now, roughly, give or take. You just want to take some of the chill off so that it cooks evenly once it gets in the oven. Remember, we want dry skin so it gets crispy, even thickness and even temperature of the bird when it goes in the oven so that it cooks evenly. Thus, we get juicy, flavorful, perfectly cooked turkey plus crispy skin. Let's talk turkey anatomy. So here we go. And you can see the liquid that came off just from the salting action. I know it's not pretty. I know. There's nothing I can do about that. It's raw. It's raw meat. That's what it looks like. You have the breast meat of the turkey up here, which is that white meat that everybody loves. You've got the legs and the thighs right here. And then over here at the back, obviously, we have the backbone. Just pat off any of that surface moisture. And then we are going to start taking this backbone out. Just snipping along as we go. And just take your time. You're going to just be working through these sort of little bones along the way. If you're working super hard, you probably are trying to go through the backbone, so just readjust. And I find it's usually easiest to work, because I'm a right-handed cutter here, to work this direction when I'm going down the right side of the bone, and then I'll flip the bird and keep going the other direction on the left side. Okay, here we are at a tough little situation. So we're fighting a lot here, which means I'm going to flip this bird and find out why we're fighting by going the other direction. Okay, here we go. I see our situation. You know, there was a time when I thought I would go into medicine as a surgeon. One half done. Instead, I chose a different passion, but little elements of the surgery craft continue to find their way into my life. Just kidding. I would be a much more delicate surgeon. Keep going. Never give up. Never surrender. And these shears are actually doing quite a decent job. I'm sorry for speaking ill of you before. You can always come at it from different angles if you feel like you need a little leverage. But you can see already, just as we're working through the second half of the backbone, how the turkey is already starting to open itself up. How's the view from your side? This is great. This is just what you came to see, I know. There. Okay. Backbone is removed. Flip it over so you are breast side up now. And this is the part that really does help to have a extremely strong downward press. So I'm kind of pulling on one side of the breast as I push down to try to aid that break to happen. This is hilariously stupid looking. You know, if you can't laugh and have fun in the kitchen, then you are doing it all wrong, let me tell you. This is like a bionic Terminator bird. I don't know what is going on. Get your butcher to do it for you. This is ridiculous. Good. I need a readjustment, and now that I have flattened this turkey, but I got it nice and decently flat. It's a much bigger version of a chicken, let me tell you that. Here's what you want to do. I actually don't bother to truss this bird or anything like that. I just sort of tuck the wings back here into the armpits, and we'll actually wrap those wingtips if they start to burn in the oven. But again, it's like an hour-and-a-half cook, so they might just be fine. And then I just sort of splay the legs out like so. Nice little compact turkey situation. I'm going to set it up on my baking sheet that you can definitely line with tin foil or something so that it makes it easier for cleanup. But I'm going to show you what to do if you don't have a roasting rack. If you do have a roasting rack, just go ahead and put it on top of your baking sheet and then you're good to go. But if you don't, I will show you a nice little hack. Excuse me while I retire to the restroom and fix the situation. I'm going to show you how to do it on a regular old cookie sheet. So this does mean you have a slightly more high chance of spilling, but just hold it steady and you'll be fine. If you have a roasting rack that fits right on top here, go ahead and use that. I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't have that, which is to basically create a roasting rack using your veg. And this has two exciting good things that happen. Number one, it creates space under the turkey for there to be air to circulate so that you get even cooking and some of the juices can collect underneath without making it soggy underneath the bird. Number two is that because onions and celery have their own flavor, they are also perfuming the bird from underneath. Plus, they are scenting and flavoring any turkey drippings coming off, which are all going to be used in your eventual gravy. So, win, 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 win. Go ahead and I actually leave my onions in halves because I find that they are the sturdiest, and this is a decently large bird that almost killed me. So I'm going to leave these onions in halves so that they are firm enough to withstand the force. And just cutting off most of the root, taking off that outer layer, and I'm just going to kind of stack it along the train here. So now obviously this turkey no longer has a cavity, which is where a lot of people like to stuff their aromatics, things like onions, celery, garlic. So it's really nice to be able to provide a similar style of effect from the ground up. So I'm gonna grab some celery. You honestly don't even need it at this point. I just like the flavor of it. Let me give it a quick wash, one sec. And I'm just going to kind of lay those in between the onions. Okay, I'm just drying off the surface of the turkey inside and out. So again, you're starting from maximum dryness, which means maximum crisping capability. And I just wanna lay this over our veg. And make sure these legs are lifted up. If you want to, you can just wiggle your veg around so that everybody gets supported. Remember, it's already been salted overnight, so I'm not gonna add a whole lot of extra seasoning at this point. I am gonna lacquer on that maple butter before we put it in the oven and put a little salt on top of that, but not too much more. Okay, so now we're gonna grab our nicely cooled maple butter mix. And if you have a pastry brush, this is the time to break it out and just lacquer your bird up with this glorious maple syrup and butter mix. I saved about half of the maple and butter mix, so I have enough left to baste as the turkey is cooking. You're gonna wanna get in there every like 20, 30 minutes and just give it a good little lacquer to make sure that you're getting perfect caramelization and you're refreshing sort of the moisturizing element of the butter that's happening here. But for this first initial phase, you just wanna make sure that every little piece of your turkey has a little bit of that butter mix over top, and that's gonna help keep it nice and juicy, give it tons of flavor, obviously, and you don't want any parts to feel sticky or dry. But this is not the only opportunity you will have to give it tons of flavor. I'm gonna grab some kosher salt, and now that I have a nice little greasing on the surface of the turkey, give it a little bit extra sprinkling, but not too much. And now I'm gonna add a cup or two of chicken stock or chicken broth to the base of this pan. And what that actually helps to do is steam the turkey for the initial part of the cook. And that's super helpful to make sure it doesn't dry out. So I have my oven set to 425 degrees. This turkey is going to go in for an hour and 10 minutes roughly to start. We're gonna keep checking on it. You wanna remove the organs, anything that's on the inside of your turkey before you cook it. You'll be less likely to forget that that is in there if you spatchcock, but sometimes if you leave the bird whole, people do forget these inside. They are excellent for bringing tons and tons of flavor to your gravy. And because I didn't have area in the pan to add them alongside the turkey to roast, I'm just gonna roast them quickly in a little pot like so. So just turn it over a medium-high heat. You can add a little olive oil here or a little butter, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan, not too much. And then we will just lay in the backbone, the neck, and these little organs that, will create a lot of flavor for you. And you just want to hit those with some seasoning, so plenty of kosher salt. And when we turn them over after the one side is nice and browned off, we will season the other side, and a little bit of cracked pepper. And we'll just let those brown and render off and give us a nice, thick, flavorful base for some yummy gravy. So come and see what's happening now. We had the olive oil in the base of the pan. I layered in our backbone and the neck and all the other little bits and bobs. And now I'm actually going to cover with what's left of our chicken broth. And you can add a splash of apple cider in here if you wanted to, or a little white wine would be nice. But we're basically gonna braise these for the next 45 minutes. So they really have a chance to get tender and release some of the nice collagen in the bones and give us that thick, glossy, delicious base for our gravy. I covered it up and we're just gonna let it simmer really gently for about 45 minutes. I'll check back in and keep adding liquid to make sure that everything is like only peeking up at the very surface level. And now it's time for the undisputed king of sides, stuffing. It is bready, but it obviously needs more than just bread, because while broth and butter soaked bread crisped in the oven does sound delicious, throwing in a few bits and bobs that just bulk it up a little bit more and provide tons of flavor really does go a long way. We will be using celery, parsnips, shallots, a little garlic, and then of course the glorious chestnuts that are rich and meaty and faintly sweet and just go such a long way to giving amazing texture in the stuffing. So I'm gonna mince up, call it 5 stalks of celery. Celery to me needs to be here, but it doesn't need to be the focal point. So just quickly mince up your celery. Now let's get to the parsnips. So for these, I do want to peel them because I find that the peels can be just a slightly bitter. So I want their sweetness to come through. There's a little, I don't like licorice. So when I say this, know that it doesn't mean I don't like them, but there is like a faint sort of licorice anise flavor here. That goes really beautifully in this mix. And also when it roasts, gets very sweet and just adds really nice texture to the stuffing. So even though I do not like anise or licorice flavoring, I really do like the parsnips in this mix. And I think you will too, so try it. But if you want to leave them out, go for carrots or skip them entirely and just stick with celery and onion, which is honestly all anyone really cares about in the stuffing. Let's do 6 of these. I ultimately want about 2 cups of chopped parsnips. So if you have particularly large ones or particularly tiny ones, you can change the amounts accordingly. So the turkey's been in for half an hour and I meant to baste it at 20 minutes, but I forgot about it. So let's pull it out and give it just a quick little glossing. Okay. Back to the stuffing. So you just want to separate the sort of thicker upper part, and then I slice it in half to give myself a nice flat surface to work with, and cut it into maybe 4 or 5 pieces, and then give yourself these nice even cuts. And for the lower half, you can either cut it as rings or just give it a quick slice in half. Lay them on their flat sides again and work through. So we have the parsnips and the celery, and now we're going to cut up 4 shallots. Use red onions, use yellow onions. I like shallots because they do have that very sweet little mellow onion flavor, but whatever you do, get plenty of onion in your stuffing somehow because it brings all the flavor. It brings a little bit of moisture. It brings a little bit of texture. You got to have it. Just trimming top and bottom, slicing down in half should give you a very easy to peel shallot. This, by the way, if we're talking about getting ahead and planning for success, is absolutely something I should have done the day before. Mince your shallots, mince your veg. It all keeps fine overnight in the fridge, and then you will be in pretty much just a dump and stir situation, which is ideal on the day of. For the shallots, it doesn't need to be anything too precise. Everything's going to sweat down and then get tossed together with our breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to put little slices on them and call it a day. I am just really happy that we're making Thanksgiving together. All my shallots are nice and chopped up into the bowl with our parsnips and our celery. Let's get some butter melting and get this in the pot, and then we'll chop up some garlic and do the rest of our stuff. Start with 3 tablespoons of butter, and we're gonna save a little bit to dot the surface of our stuffing with, so you get golden brown little pockets everywhere. And as this butter melts, I'll go ahead and add in our chopped veg. And you can see this is like a lot of veg going into our stuffing because we want that. We want the bread to have plenty of flavor and plenty of friends to develop that perfect bite with. Okay, I'm gonna add a bit of kosher salt now, about a teaspoon, to start to release some of the liquid from our veg and really develop that color and that flavor. Make sure that your butter is close to the surface of the pot so that you get plenty of greasing happening to coat those veg. And while that is going, I'm going to quickly mince up some garlic and our fresh herbs. We're going to use about 2 tablespoons of fresh thyme and 2 tablespoons of fresh sage, which is the absolute must-have essential of Thanksgiving meal and goes so beautifully with turkey, obviously, and is going to be a great complement to the parsnips and the chestnut in the stuffing. So I'm going to use 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. Remember, I really have a theory about why garlic and onions are essential in these recipes. And it's because onion is like flavor, and it's faint. It's like that faint, it's about moisture as much as it is about flavor, where garlic is 100% flavor packed, and I find creates like a really essential base of flavor that perfumes the entire dish. So I want both. And I am therefore going to add 6 cloves of garlic. Just a rough chop, nothing crazy. So the turkey's been in about 40 minutes. I basted at the 20-minute mark with some more of the maple butter. Now I'm gonna baste quickly just with some of the pan drippings because they are full of flavor, full of moisture, and I want them to distribute all over the bird again. So come and see. You just wanna scoop some up and ladle it over your turkey. If you have a basting tool, you can definitely use that, but I am just scooping it up with my spoon. And you can see these wings are actually, you know what, rather than lose all the heat out of our oven, I'm gonna grab this and quickly wrap the wings with a little tin foil just so they don't burn. Get some tin foil and make basically like little hats for your turkey wings, little socks. The foil blocks the heat, so they are already nice and crisp. We'll take them off at the end so they continue to develop color. While I have the bird out here, I will continue basting because it's much easier than when you're in a hot oven. And make sure you get these wings, make sure you get this nice thigh. If you need to tilt the pan to scoop up this juice, you can, but we've got a nice amount of juice down here from the turkey itself, the vegetables, the chicken stock that we added, that little bit of maple butter that's made its way down and dripped to the bottom. And I think we are in really good shape. And you can see how much it's already starting to develop a bit of color. Stay super juicy. All right, back into our oven before we lose too much heat. And if you found that the liquid was disappearing too quickly, evaporating too fast, you could just add a little bit more broth at this point. But we do not need it. What we need is another set of hands. And a few more hours in the day, and that's about it. Okay, let's check on what's going on over here. Come see. So we have our base of the gravy simmering away. The liquid's high enough for me right now. I might add just a splash more of the chicken broth since I have it. Because remember, the broth in this base is actually gonna help form the gravy, so none of it will go to waste. And just add a bit, but not too much all at once. You don't wanna drop the cooking temperature way down. And then take a peek in that dish there with all of our veg toasting away. And I am going to spread them out, make sure there's plenty of surface area. That's the biggest choice you have to make when you're picking which pan or pot to cook it in, is just find something with as much surface area as possible so that the veg can release this steam coming off here, and that way they won't sweat, they will start to brown. You will get that caramelization happening, which will make you very happy. It gives you texture, gives you flavor. So yeah, just keep moving these around and spread them out so they have room to get rid of some of that liquid. In the meantime, we've chopped up our garlic, which is now ready to go. We can leave it here on the side. All right, so pull some thyme. And then here are the sage leaves that I am just going to quickly slice through. Sage is super delicate, so I'm not going to work through it more than once, but I do want to make sure it distributes well enough through the entire pot of stuffing so that nobody feels like they got neglected. Into our pot with the sage, the thyme, and this garlic. Give that a quick stir, just so, ooh, all the fresh herbs just happened. They are blooming in that hot butter, and I'm just gonna let this sweat another minute or so. I don't wanna develop color on the garlic. I just want it to have a chance to coat and flavor all these veg. And while that's happening, I will roughly chop our roasted chestnuts. So these are roasted and peeled. You buy them just like so. And then you just give another quick little chop to the whole halves and whole chestnuts. Again, mainly so that you can distribute and extend these as much as possible through the entire stuffing mix. And just in case you haven't seen them up close, they're really super tender and soft, nice and moist. And now it's time to grab our breadcrumbs. So I got a loaf of sourdough yesterday, and you can just cut it into cubes and let it air dry overnight. If you forget to do that and you want to speed along that drying out process, you can just tuck them in a 350-degree oven on a baking sheet and let the little cubes of bread dry out just a bit. It's helpful because when you have dry bread, it actually has space to expand and soak up the egg and the broth and the flavorings from our veg and really just get super, super flavorful. So here is my loaf of sourdough, which I'm gonna add to a bowl along with 2 eggs, and that helps us create that wonderful bouncy plush custard texture. In with our chestnuts, and now I'm going to add our veg right on top. Look at that, by the way. Oh my goodness, do you see how delicious and fragrant all those parsnips and shallots, fresh herbs, and garlic have become. Now you want to douse this with a liberal amount of chicken broth, at least 2 to 3 cups, because you do want the bread to have enough liquid to really soak up that flavor, but then plenty of pieces will still stay nice and crisp, especially towards the top. It might be a wooden salad bowl moment because I'm really struggling with this stupid small bowl. Let's do this right, shall we? Into a bowl that's more appropriately sized, and just give it a quick toss here. Distribute that egg and the broth. Guys, this smells amazing. I think it needs a little bit more liquid, which is also a great reason to put it in a big bowl so you can really see what's going on here. And I want just a smidge of olive oil, maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons. Toss it again. Oh my gosh, Daphne, you have gotten out of hand. It's okay. And get yourself a nice wide casserole dish like so, where you will have plenty of surface area for your stuffing to get nice and crisp and golden brown and still have that wonderful custardy layer underneath, because you got to make everyone happy. And if you need to spread it out over multiple dishes, you can, or you can jam it in like we're about to do. It's not done yet. Remember that little bit of butter that we saved from before? Pinch it and put little dollops all scattered throughout your gorgeous, ultra flavorful stuffing. Grab some tin foil, and this is going into the same oven as your turkey for a half hour. Then we're going to remove the tin foil and let it really brown off for another 20 minutes or so while the turkey rests. And oh my gosh, then we're going to have turkey dinner. Let's baste this turkey while we are here. I'm going to do a double whammy this time. I am going to first start with some of the liquid from the base, and then I'm going to go again with our maple butter. Oh yeah. And the butter has started to set up a little bit, so it's running nice and smoothly down the whole bird. And guys, if you have the pastry brush, use it. If you want to make a little mop with paper towel, you can. Or if you want to do it my way, then just ladle. Not every single piece is going to get it, but just enough will. Oh yes. Last little dribbles. All right, cook, my beauty, cook. So at this point, the turkey's been in for 1 hour and 10. We're gonna keep checking on it, make sure that it gets really golden brown. I want the deepest part of the thigh to register 160 degrees before I pull it out and let it rest. If you're not using a thermometer, you want to check and make sure that the juices at the thigh are running clear, and then you can get ready. It's happening soon. All right, guys, the turkey has been in for just shy of 2 hours. This was a 14-pound bird, and everybody's turkey will cook a little bit differently based on your oven, based on your turkey. Oh my goodness, look at the golden browning situation that has happened with our maple butter. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, I was watching the juices circulate underneath here. It was insane. Trapped in by that crispy skin. While I'm in here, I'm going to take the foil off of our stuffing, which has steamed beautifully and given us really golden, fragrant little cubes, and let it continue cooking so we get those nice little crisp edges. Now here, I want to let the turkey rest like a solid half hour, which is why you pull it out when the thermometer registers like 160, because it'll keep cooking up to 165, even a little bit beyond as it rests. But oh my goodness, this looks so good. What I do want to do is quickly separate out the drippings in the pan, because I want to let them rest also and have the fat float to the top, and we'll use that to make a really quick gravy. Thank you for cooperating so nicely. And now we have free access to these gorgeous pan drippings. Just leave the vegetables off to the side. You can chop them up, put them back in the stock later if you want to continue flavoring the gravy, but they have served their purpose now. We have maple butter, we have chicken stock, we have all the renderings from that turkey, we have onion and celery. We have it all neatly collected in a cup measure. And to that, I am also going to add the renderings from our giblets and backbone. Now, what I was doing here as I was cooking it was continually adding in more chicken stock as I needed. I also added about a cup of white wine and let that simmer down here, so we have a ton of flavor in here as well. I'm going to pull out these pieces because you can actually pull the meat off of the bones here and chop it up and add it into the gravy. What we're really after is this ultra flavorful broth here at the base of the pot with all that concentrated fat and collagen and super smooth flavor. So now just let this hang out and cool, and as it does, the fat will come to the top and float. We're going to use that to make a quick roux for our gravy. I can't stop looking at this bird. I am obsessed with how like rich and golden the caramelization is that happened. The skin is so crisp. Look at these neat little wings that didn't burn because of our little socks we stuck on them. Gorgeous. Already you can see the fat separating to the top up here from those pan drippings. That's what we're going to reserve and use to make our roux, and then we will build the gravy with some of the drippings themselves, but they're very salty and concentrated in flavor. So we'll add a little more chicken broth to that too. Whisk it all together. Give us that gorgeous sauce. Put it with our stuffing that should be almost ready. Supper! All right, I don't know about you, I am ready for a cocktail. This turkey was ready and rested. The stuffing is smelling incredible. It is golden brown and crisp. Ooh, look at this situation. Oh my goodness gracious. While we were waiting for the stuffing to finish, I whipped up some gravy. Come check this out. I'm just gonna walk you through the process because this video is getting way too long as it is. So I took a half cup of fat that was sitting at the top of our drippings and mixed it together with a half cup of all-purpose flour, cooked it down a little bit, like 3-4 minutes, just till it got a little deeper in color. That's the roux that's gonna thicken up our sauce. Then I added some more chicken broth and some of the pan drippings just to give it lots of flavor. Come and see how silky, thick, and glossy this gravy is. And if you want to loosen it up, just add a little more of the pan drippings, a little more of the sauce. Put that on the side. I am so sad to have to carve you up, my friend, but we're going to do it right now. Yes, we are. Now that the turkey is nice and rested, the juices should have redistributed throughout all the meat, so it's really juicy. I'm just going to cut down on the leg here. And you can see how perfectly cooked that is. Separate the thigh from the leg here and you'll find that the juices are running beautiful and clear. You can even just pop it out, and you have a gorgeous turkey leg and turkey thigh. For the breast, you're just going to carve right down the breastplate here. And there you go, your lovely breast meat here. Super tender and juicy, nothing dry about it, perfectly cooked. Just go ahead and take thin slices off of each piece. And that's what you have. Let's make a little plate, shall we? A little bit of breast here. I want that leg. And now I want some stuffing. How about this little crisp corner? I think that looks good. Get some of those nice little nuggets of all of our veg and chestnuts. It's getting late. We've been cooking all day. We have earned this gorgeous meal. Sauce up that stuffing and the beautiful meat. Okay, stuffing first. Oh my gosh, those crisp sourdough croutons. All those parsnips, shallots. Oh my gosh, that is so right. The chestnuts, guys, don't go without. Oh. Oh my gosh, you guys. I know, like, I cooked it, but it's really good. That sticky glaze from the maple butter. Oh my gosh. How about the breast meat? Okay, let's try some white meat. Sometimes has a tendency to get dry. Not ours. I'm so happy right now. I'm happy for me that I get to eat this meal. I'm super happy for you that you're gonna get to eat this meal. I'm grateful for all of you hanging out with me cooking every week. Happy Thanksgiving. Go eat.